What if the walls of your home could whisper stories of survival? What if your soul was the ship and life was the storm? Today's guest doesn't write memoirs only, she lives it. From a tiny house built by the sea, captain, to the pages of her powerful memoir, Grit and Grace, Deborah Rudell invites us into her story of transformation, truth telling, and tender grit. This is not the average author talk, this is a soul excavation. So let's keep it real. Welcome to the show, Deborah.
Thank you, Adnan. What a great introduction. I love it.
You're so welcome and you're so worth it. So, this book is titled Grit and Grace, and I love the word grit. I don't know why I love it, but I love it. Grit and Grace. I love it. And they seem to be opposite, polar differences, correct?
Yes.
So, what moment in your life required the most grit and the least grace?
The most grit, I would say, would be being in the middle of a gale, in the middle of the ocean, and being terrified out of my mind. And just persevering.
Right, yes,
not
and just
packing
persevering.
in, not wigging out, just tolerating. Yeah.
Yes. So do you think grit happens and then grace happens right afterwards?
I think they're mixed together a little bit.
Yes. Okay. I think
Yeah,
so too.
I think they're mixed together a little bit. I feel very blessed.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So you lived in a house built by a sea captain in 1906. Tell us about that experience and knowing that information.
It was interesting because it was about 15 years ago when I moved into this house in San Diego, and it was all derelict and no one was in it and broken windows, but it was in a wild space in the middle of the city. So I really liked that. The lots of trees, I couldn't see the neighbor, bordered a park, lots of creatures. And then I was also thinking at that time that I would be writing, and it just looked like the perfect stereotype of a writer's retreat. Yeah. And then I learned more about the story, about the ship on the door, and that the captain had moved there and built this place. And and every now and then I think about the ghost and Mrs. Muir, and I kind of chuckle.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. The guy with the beard, right? The beard?
Yeah.
He had the beard and the captain. Yes. I remember that. Oh my gosh.
So I haven't seen it.
I was reading it. That's great.
Go ahead.
I said, I remember that. Why didn't I think of that when I was reading your book? I remember.
Well, it was, it's been a precious space to write. And then, of course, the Writers Guild in San Diego is very strong. San Diego Writers Inc., INK, is very strong. Lots of gifted people and lots of resources and huge support with my writers group. Yeah.
Right. I know that this house probably influenced you when you were going through some storms of your own, right? Behind those walls, and you kind of looked at the house and said, "Oh, this, got some stories from the house to apply to your own life." What did that teach you, just being in that setting, and you going through your own storms?
I think the biggest thing is that there's history, that we're not the first people to go through storms. And there's always been ones before us that have gone before, culturally, societally, individually. And that was precious to be kind of part of that. And the nature around it, that nature comes and goes. The trees come and go, the storms come and go, and I was able to kind of be present in the treehouse and go through my ups and downs as a person, and also as a writer, like I can't do this, and then keep going, step. Yeah. And I'm very honored too to talk with you because you have so many books. I'm like, wow, I've done one, like this is
One is an accomplishment. Listen, one is an accomplishment. Believe me.
easier.
Believe
Does it
me.
get easier?
It does. It does because it opens the floodgates. When you start writing, it just opens the floodgates to all that creativity that we're holding inside. I never knew I had this much. I knew I was creative, but I didn't know that I write books all the time, and I didn't know. I didn't know. I was like, this came out of me, and when I read it, I'm like, this came out of me. Like you look around, you go, wow, this is really good. Right? You say, wow, this is
I
really
think
good.
so. I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah. You crack yourself up because it's such creativity and what you learn as we're talking about the ghost and Mrs. Muir, that spirit is in all of us. That creative spirit is in all of us. And we have that. We're able to create. We're able to be imaginative. If we're able to see things. The beauty of writing, the beauty of imagination and memory. Woo! It's great. It's great.
It's precious. It's so precious. Yeah.
Yes, it is. What's one belief about yourself that you had to unlearn in order to grow during this whole process? During this whole process.
Yeah, and the belief I had about myself was that this is going to sound a little odd, but I still feel just ordinary, like my
Yeah.
life is just ordinary. But
Yeah.
what I had to learn was that not everyone has the same experiences in a life. And that was surprising to me for some reason. I guess because you're living your life, you don't really think about, you
Right.
know, uh, what other people are doing with their lives. My
Right.
immediate family and everyone were all involved with this. So this was my life. But I
Right.
learned that I've had extraordinary opportunities
Hmm.
to experience things that, like I said earlier, I feel very blessed to have experienced. For example, being in the middle of the Pacific, like
Right.
not everyone has that opportunity.
Hmm. You're right.
Yeah.
You're so
And so I feel excited about that. And it's made me excited about my life also, that how the preciousness of a life. We just kind of go along. It's just we take it for granted so much. And the writing process, the writing journey has really helped me just put that into perspective of how extraordinary every life is. And to be
right.
alive on this planet now in these
Mhm.
crazy, crazy times. And how can we be bringing that extraordinariness of who we are and our whole evolution over lifetimes
Mhm.
to this time and help and support and stay above the drowning, stop
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the mess and the static that's all going on. Can we stay above
Right.
that and breathe and let the light in and be part
Yes.
of that in the midst of it? In the midst of it.
Right. 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 I know that it takes a very special process when it comes to memoirs, because that kind of digs up things you probably wanted to put away. Right? And you were
Yeah.
talking about seas, and we're talking about being in the middle of the sea. You find good things and you find bad things, right? What in this process of writing, did you almost stop?
Yes. And there's two ways of stopping. One was I I just thought it wasn't worth it,
Right.
like writers
Right.
do. And
Uh-huh.
my writing group encouraged me. And the other part of stopping was I finished writing it and then putting it out there, publishing.
Right. Right.
That was a hurdle for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
did it. It took me a year
Yeah.
or two, but I went over the finish line, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot, with a memoir because it's either digging up a truth that you really didn't want to, and you got to like, oh God, this is heavy. This is a little bit heavy. I know when I was writing, that's how I felt. Oh, this is heavy. Are they going to like it? Are they going to relate to it? Is it going to hurt somebody? If it's not going to hurt somebody, is it going to hurt me? You got all this things going through. Did you go through a lot of that?
I did. And at the same time, I have to say that when I was working on the boat and I was learning more about myself
Mm-hmm.
and reminiscing back about my life, I was digesting quite a bit of that and integrating it. So part of it was integrated. But when I started writing, I was just writing about sanding and varnishing and boat parts. And my writing group was looking at me saying, yeah, but Debbie, where were you? What was your life like? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I kind of grit on this and I use this kind of varnish on this. And
Right. Right. Yeah.
so they had to actually pull it out of me. I didn't think that was worth anything, but
Yeah.
that turned
Yeah.
out to be the kind of the meat of the whole story, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's funny that you said that because we start off with the superficial things. We're thinking, and it's so good to have a group like that, like a group to say, hey, we need that meat. We need the meat out of there. We need that grit. We need that. In a story, we do need that. Our lives have so much grit to it, right? So
Yes.
much grit to it. But we don't think that because we're living it and we're focused on this, but see how beautiful this, in my book, I talked about me making mud pies when I was a little girl. But it was like, well, what happened, after the mud pies? Oh, that part. So it's great
Mhm.
to have those groups. It's really
Yeah.
great.
And that's what I mean when I say I don't think I appreciated my life so much because we
Yes.
take it for granted, as you just referred to. We take it for
Yeah.
granted.
Yeah.
And it's so much more, so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're a college professor by day and a soul storyteller by night. Ever feel like you're
Okay.
living a double life?
It was kind of funny when my book came out. The lab tech at school was one of
Mm-hmm.
the first people to get my book. And
Yeah.
of course, when you're in college, you don't talk about your personal life. Like, people
Right.
didn't know I was a writer. I didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
And he goes out there and waves this book around in front of all the students, and they're like, what? And I was like, oh my goodness gracious. It was a bit of a, putting my two selves together
Together, yeah.
and being calm and just accepting that I was both at once. And yes,
Yeah.
it was an interesting transition. As a professional
Mm-hmm.
person, you kind of put you put a hat on, and I heard you in an
Yes.
interview
Yes.
talk about hats.
Yes. Yes, you kind of, you put the hat on, and then later on you put the cape on, all of that stuff. You redress every time you step into a different arena. You
Yeah.
redress. Yeah,
And then
yeah,
in medical profession, you do put a hat on, and so it was a little bit, the hat was slipping, and I wanted to be graceful. I wanted to be graceful with that, that
yeah. And it's
right in
difficult.
the middle line there. Yeah.
And it's difficult to blend, to realize this is who you are. And
Mm.
especially when you're writing a memoir, this is who you are. And no matter if you're in a professional setting or in a church setting or wherever you are, even at a wedding, this is who you are. That now that memoir is out there, this is who you are.
And
It
there's
just
something
drops that.
so freeing. There's something so freeing about that, because for many years, as I don't know if we're going to get into this, but I was part of the commune in Oregon, and for
Right,
many years I kept that very quiet because people had
right.
so much judgment about it. and
Yeah.
people would judge me, and it wasn't a good thing, like for a long time. And then luckily that documentary came out, and a lot of people just started asking me, which was
Right.
wonderful,
Right.
because then I could
Yeah.
kind of share and speak and not feel like, oh, what kind of, big hard judgments, am I going to run
Yeah.
into? So
Right.
it's been
Right.
very freeing, very freeing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you about that. That was probably one of the truths that kind of came out of it, that either some knew and kind of was judging like secretly, or some didn't know and will one now want to ask a lot of questions about. So you did find a truth that you had to let out to the world.
And not only just let it out, it's like, I, I don't want to use the word proud of it,
Yeah.
because that's not quite the right word, but it's more like I have a lot of respect for
Right.
people that have gone through things like that,
Right.
because you grow inside so much.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
you've stepped outside of the box, you've stepped outside of the comfort zone of yourself and
Mhm.
society, and
Right.
and then you've found a way that's very true and authentic to yourself, hopefully.
Right. Right.
Whereas if you're just in society, you're following the conditioning that you grew up with.
Right.
And if
What
you're
did you
one who's
what did you what did you have to cut out when you wrote that? Like out of your own life, what realizations did you come to when you were writing that part of it?
about being at the ranch,
Yeah.
um, I guess that I was pretty much in awe that I did that. That I had the kind of the courage and just kind of did
Yeah.
that. It was like kind of
Mhm.
gutsy when I look back on it. And I honestly don't know if I would do it now. Like,
Right.
um, I have a lot more, I'm not so naive, as I was then.
Mhm.
And, you know, things have repercussions. Whereas then it was just
Right.
like, let's go, let's try this. This is wonderful.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're different at that time, and I think that was probably just a way for you to grow, and even appreciate. Now we appreciate everything. Like we appreciate falling down. It's like, oh, that's great. That's
Because
terrific.
you realize how that made you a better person, a better listener, a
Mhm.
better companion.
That's right.
That
That's right.
as an instructor, people can have all kinds of life stories, and it doesn't really phase me so that I'm rocked. I can just be there with them. No
Yes,
matter how
absolutely.
difficult their path has been or the things that they faced. Whereas I think early on in my life, things would be so shocking to me, I couldn't really listen or be there. I'd be too much in my own reaction to what I just
Yeah.
heard to not be able to actually be there for another person. Yeah.
Sure, 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 absolutely. That's a beautiful thing. I think growing, and again, all of this is really our authenticity throughout all of our lives that we go through things. It's just part of our us growing that authenticity, being our original selves, and just taking those lessons. Um, as you were talking, I was thinking about in an episode. I'm trying to think of an episode of The Ghost in Mrs. Muir. I'm like, what did they do? Like they couldn't. Yeah, I'm going. What did they do? What did they do? I'm thinking about that because he would always show up when she had to make a decision. That I remember. And he's always asking, what are you gonna do? You know? So what are you gonna do? So it was like the good devil and the bad devil on the shoulder, right? It was always he showed up at these inopportune times or of times when she was transitioning into some kind of decision. So that's pretty cool.
And I think it's also interesting the title that you gave this episode.
Right.
I was thinking, no, that's not the name of my book. This must be the right address. And then I went,
Yeah.
oh, this is a title that she's given it, and
Yeah.
how interesting. And then we end up
Yeah.
talking about the ghost.
We started talking about this. It's
Well
all
done.
about transformation, though. Like you said, it's
Mhm.
all about transformation of the ship. and we are ships because we carry things, and of the soul. It really is. It's all about that. So talk about the transformation that you can, give to the audience about, just 2 or 3 tips that you think are so important that you took out of great Grit and Grace.
Yeah, there's a couple of pretty strong ones. The first one, and the most important thing in my life, has been a quest for freedom. And by
Mm-hmm.
freedom, I don't mean you can walk to the store anytime you want. By freedom, I mean freedom inside. If you're blaming somebody for something, or
Right.
you have unfinished business with an ex-partner, or with your
That's good.
children, or whatever it is, those things are binding you. So the
Mm-hmm.
more that you can find those areas in yourself, and that was what I had to do, find those areas in myself and let them go, forgive. Um,
Right.
and in that, forgiveness was it's such a selfish act in a way, because I'm doing it, because I want my freedom. But
Yes.
when
Yes.
people say forgiveness, it always sounds like you're such a saint, and I tell people, I
Mhm.
say, I'm not a saint. I said, I want
Right.
my freedom. So
Yes.
I don't want to be bound in any way to, hard feelings or bad things that have happened.
That's
I
right.
want to find the light in them and move forward for all of us.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
That's it.
dealing with disillusionment, with my
Oh, yes.
master, that was huge. That was a
Mhm.
huge thing, to find the light in that, to find the freedom in it. Thank
Right.
goodness for Spike Lee's movie about Malcolm X, or I would never.
Yes.
We saw that movie, and I was like, wait a minute, that was very pivotal. Do you remember
Mhm.
that movie?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was
I love
really,
everything about Spike Lee, I will tell you that. I love everything about what he does and his intention, intentionally having, like, little vignettes in each of the movies. Such vignettes. You gotta
yeah,
look at it again. There's vignettes in all of them. He has a message. It's crazy how many messages you find in them. Yeah, I've been
and I
watching them
don't
for a
know if he was, thinking about the message I got about
while.
spiritual messages,
I think he
for
was.
students,
As long
but
as you got a message, Deb. As long as you got a message, that's all that matters.
well, I sure
That's
did,
all
and
that
it
matters.
really transformed that was the last bits of,
Yes.
feeling bad that I'd been taken down a garden path, and there was not truth in things, and that it was a waste of time in my life, and
Hmm.
actually
Hmm.
realizing that it was actually so perfect, and I learned so much, and I could never have done it without the ranch, without the guan, without the whole
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And what a blessing that was. That was truly a
Hmm.
blessing. So
Right.
learning to change, that's my first thing. Learning to change things so that you're in freedom and
Gotcha.
you don't have any little unfinished businesses. And the other one was that if you ever want to do anything in your life, anything, no
Hmm.
matter how crazy it is, like building a wooden boat when you know nothing about boats, and
Hmm.
sailing across an ocean when you have no clue how to do it, do
Right.
it. Do it. You
Yeah.
will find a
That's what
way.
I say. That's what I
And
say.
and
Do it.
it,
Do it.
it's so expansive to do stuff that you are green at, that you don't know
Hmm.
already, because
Hmm.
you have to expand your whole being, your whole soul, into like a new whole arena, a new world.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I really got
Yeah.
out of my life and about writing this book.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said that about expansion, doing something that you've never done. And I often talk about this a lot. We get stuck in fear mode, and I think I could talk to you about this. Is that like one of my friends was scared of a dog, and the dog was 4 pounds, and I was like, "What are you scared of?" So and she goes, "I don't know." And I said, a lot of times we carry around things that we not sure. Like, and I said, you need to investigate that because the dog is about 4 pounds. It's about this big. And she is 6'2", I almost jumped out the car, and I'm like, "What's going on?" But when you embrace something that's new to you, right? When you want have that expansive mindset, that open mindset, things like that, you're like, oh, what is that? You're drawn into finding out what it is,
Mhm.
and that's just a little thing. But like we get into the traumas or the things that people pass down to us, and we have no idea, right?
Mhm.
Don't like.
Right.
I know you probably told. Oh, maybe you weren't, but maybe your parents could have said. I'm just saying as an example. Don't ever go into the sea, right? Don't ever go swimming. But you did. Don't ever get in the boat, but you did. When you are in a limited space or limited mindset, you won't do that. But you are open. That's the
Mhm.
beauty of it. And openness brings freedom and expansion.
And as you know from reading my story, I had a lot of
Yeah.
fear all the way through it. Like fear never
Yes.
goes away. You just do it
No.
anyway.
Let's do it anyway. Exactly.
And you
Exactly. I
tolerate it.
say yes. Yes.
You just have to be willing to tolerate it. I
Yes.
wish there was an
Yes.
easier way, but there isn't.
No, and I think a lot of times we are not paying attention to the right signal. We class it as fear, but it's just not knowing. It's not fear. It's just I
Yes.
don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I never did this before. That's the way I look at it. It's like it's not fear. Fear is I am like you like, but you're not afraid. You're just like I don't know what's going to happen. I never did this before. So when I get that feeling, oh, I never did this before. Okay, got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I'm going parachuting. I got to do it. Got to do it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's I think it's kind of crucial to a life. And I
Yeah.
say that because I have friends that, they kind of
Hmm.
have regrets and they say, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. And I'm like, that's so sad. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Wish.
very
Yeah.
sad
Yeah.
that and they'll tell me right up, well, I was too afraid. And I was like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to encourage all your listeners, yes, don't let the fear stop you. And I'm not the first person to say that. Lots of
No.
people have said that.
But take credit for it today. Okay? Take credit. Take credit. Take credit for it today. You got it today,
Okay,
Deb. You
today
got it
I'm the reminder. Yep.
today. So I wanted to switch gears to your workshop. You wrote a memoir workshop and published in the Shaking in the Tree. What truth
Oh,
did
okay.
you write? What truth did you write that scared you the most to say that out loud?
The piece that I wrote in there about hot skins.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, there was quite a bit in there. One is my femininity, my sexuality, my sensuality,
Hmm.
and being in an environment that could be exploited. And would I exploit myself, or would I be able
Hmm.
to
Oh, that's good.
actually just go on the straight line and okay, model the exercise wear and get the sales, which is what my boss wanted. Like
Uh-huh.
um, and that was another arena that was very scary for me. Like,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
but then when I actually did it, it was fun. It was totally
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And people were on board and they wanted to buy this exercise wear. And yeah, and it was definitely an interesting adventure, that little one.
Yeah. I would imagine. I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we really thank you, Deborah, for being here. Is there any final words that you might want to leave with our audience, or any information that you want to share of your upcoming journey?
Well, I'm going to have a book signing here in Vancouver. I'm in Vancouver right now, and
Hmm.
there's a
Hmm.
book signing at Indigo Granville on the
Okay.
19th from 1 to
Hmm.
3. And then I have my website, deborahRudell.com, and I have lots of blogs, lots of pictures of the actual project that people can look at if they would like. And my audiobook came out 10 days ago.
Awesome.
So I recorded it myself and did the editing. So that was another learning curve and something that I didn't know how to do, and I did it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really
So
cool.
that's out and available on all the places where you can buy books.
Awesome. Well, audience, Deborah Rudell reminded us today that ships and souls aren't made to sit in the harbor. They're built to sail through storms. If you felt that in your spirit, go grab her memoir, Grit and Grace, and follow her journey at Deborah Rudell Author on Instagram and Facebook. And if you're ready to tell your story but need a safe place to anchor your truth, I got you. This is Keeping It Real on Purpose. Until next time, stay gritty, stay graceful, and always keep it real.
Thank you so much, Edna.